Hello and welcome to the Future of Hospitality series. Many thanks for joining us today. Our panel discussion is focused on the future of food and drink on the high street. As a business, we have always looked to the high street for inspiration. It's a fast-moving sector that is constantly innovating and adapting to the ever-changing consumer behaviours. I'm delighted to say joining me in the panel, we have Gillian McLean, MBE, the founder and CEO of Drake and Morgan, one of the UK's most dynamic and original groups of restaurants and bars. Next up, we have Stuart Dodd, the CEO of River Cottage, a diverse business that is on a mission to change the eating habits of a nation and improve the welfare and sustainability of animals and fish. The business includes everything from a cooking school to retreats and restaurants. And finally, Matt Keach, the co-founder and CCO of Hey Coffee, one of the finest small chains of artisan coffee shops, who happen to do a mean flat white. So to start with, I'm going to ask the panel to quickly introduce their businesses and to ask what attracted them to the hospitality sector in the first place. I'll start with ladies first and ask Gillian about what attracted her to the industry and to explain a little bit about Drake and Morgan.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Gavin, and thanks very much for having me on the panel today, actually. I grew up in hospitality. I grew up in a hotel on the west coast of Scotland. So I used to say to my parents it was slave labour in terms of getting breakfast and tea and toasts and marmalade ready before I went to school, actually. But I think it got in my blood, actually. So I worked in a number of different hospitality companies, particularly Mitchells and Butler, and I was very fortunate to be able to start my own business in 2008, actually. And we've got 23 bars and restaurants, predominantly footprints in London, Manchester, Edinburgh, and down at Heathrow Airport as part of a joint venture, actually.
Oh, great, fantastic. Stuart, can I ask you the same question? Can you tell us a little bit about River Cottage and why you got into the industry?
Thanks for inviting me, Gavin. It's good to see you. Yeah, I mean, River Cottage is an interesting business, as you say. It's very diverse. We start with our HQ, which is a 100-acre organic farm in Devon, where we have cookery school, dining, retreats. We have a farmhouse where one can stay, like a mini hotel. So in its own right, it's quite secluded, and I think there are positive things we can do with the farm as we come out of this pandemic. The restaurants, on the other hand, we have a series of restaurants, all fairly large scale, 100+ covers with very little outside space. And, you know, we have a challenge there in our restaurant business going forward. But our mission really is to get people engaged in local food. We have our moniker, which is slow, which we stole from the slow movement, which is seasonal, local, organic and wild. All of our food comes from those 4 points. And we are at the moment sort of coming up with an interesting plan on how we're going to resurge from this this situation we're in. So let's see if we can all do that. I mean, the weather's beautiful in Devon at the moment, so if it was like this, we'd all be able to eat outside, and I think our lives would be made a lot easier. But let's see how it works out. And thanks for having me on the panel.
Thank you very much, Stuart. And then finally, last but not least, let's go over to Matt. Can you just tell us a little bit about your experiences in the industry and what Hey Coffee is all about?
Yeah, hi, thanks for having me on. I grew up in Wellington, New Zealand, and fell in love with the coffee scene over there from about 25 years ago. I moved to London about 20 years ago, and it's the vibe, the energy and the people, which is interesting in this current climate, that really got me in and kept me in the business. Hey Coffee has 2 stores. We were about to open 2 new stores, which would have been opened now if this pandemic hadn't have occurred. So it's an interesting time for us. We've always believed in neighbourhood and sustainability. We do a lot of work around reducing our carbon footprint or lessening our footprint on our environment. Coffee should be enjoyed, it should be fun. So we're on a bit of a mission to make specialty coffee more accessible. And again, whatever that looks like in the future or the new normal.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Matt. Well, we have a whole bunch of questions, and we're also going to be fielding questions from the audience. So if you do have any questions you'd like to ask the panel, please send them in now. I'm going to start off by asking Gillian a question, and that is, what are the themes that your community is talking about in terms of the coronavirus? Where is the conversation right now?
I think, I mean, we're predominantly a bar business, so seeing as we were chatting ahead of us coming on the call, 70% of our sales are bar. So actually we're kind of part of our, well, probably a few aspects to our community. We've been talking to our colleagues and comrades across the sector to see what their approach is going to be. And I think there's been a really good coming together of the leisure sector, particularly bar operators, because people kind of operated in silos before, but actually people through this pandemic have really started to really share and work together, which is wonderful. In terms of our teams and our community there, I think extraordinary times bring new things as well. So we've seen quite a lot of creativity within our teams, even though people are furloughed in different elements, and actually talking to our customers and our community about things that people would like to see when we return and things we'd like to improve. So yeah, I've been quite impressed with some of the things that our teams have been doing as well. And then our customer base, we look after about 2 million customers a year actually, and we've had a whole customer programme through the pandemic of D&M at home, actually talking to our customers, providing them with playlists, all sorts of different things, recipes, different elements, our drinks and classes, and also engaging with them. I thought McDonald's and Pret did a really good job in terms of going and talking to customers about what they'd like to see next and the things they'd like improved. So we've had quite a lot of interaction with our customers over the last 6 weeks, actually, in terms of things that they'd like, you know, what does it mean to them as we come back? What things would they like to see on the menu and what things matter most to them? And it's no surprise because it's probably similar for Stuart and Matthew, maybe even more so. It's about trust, provenance, sustainability, and actually safety, really. So those seem to be the kind of key themes and discussions. And also I live in Bermondsey, so I'm part of Better Bankside community, where our first site is actually, and I think as a community they've been behaving so well in terms of sharing ideas with not just the arts, the cinemas, local community groups and such like, and I think they've been doing a great job actually, the Better Bankside team. So it's similar themes, I think, in terms of those 4 key areas.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think your points, particularly about agencies like the UK Hospitality and Alva, who've been representing the businesses and the hospitality industry, have been doing an amazing job. Stuart, can I ask you the same question? What are the themes that your communities are currently talking about at the moment?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, one of the challenges in our community, Gavin, is that we work specifically in Devon for our HQ, which has up to 30,000 people a year coming through the door, and our restaurant in the local town, Axminster. We work with local producers. So one of the major problems is protecting those people's livelihoods. So we work with the local fisherman, Nigel, who fishes out of Lyme Regis, and his wife, Corrine. We work with the local farmers, so Ash and Kate over at Trill, and Harry over at Hay Farm. And what we've really tried to do is figure out how we can continue to work with our community of growers and suppliers, because the worst thing for us is that they all fail in this environment, and they're all self-employed, they're all small businesses. We've fostered relationships with them for 10, 15, 20 years. So what we started to do about 6 weeks ago was set up what we call a River Cottage supper club on a Friday evening, where we offered out to anybody within several miles who's willing to drive or able to drive to our farm to collect Friday night supper for 2, 4, 6, whatever, made by our executive chef, Gelf Alderson, in our kitchen, all alone with no help. And we started just doing 20 or 30 to see if it would work. We're now up to 150 tomorrow night, where they've all been purchased, and we buy all the produce from our local growers. And also we've given the opportunity to people like our fishermen to produce fish boxes and our local farmer to produce meat boxes, so they can actually sell them with the supper club. So that's what we're doing every week. So we're trying to retain the community that we have of all these sort of food providers, because for us that's the biggest risk. They're all organic. They're all local to us, and if we lose any of those people, or if we lose lots of them, our business won't have the same sort of face when we come back. So that's been crucial. The other thing we've started to do, we've started working with Half, which is a charity for people in need in Axminster, and for every supper we sell to the public on a Friday evening, we donate one to the local charity. And that has been a godsend. In Axminster alone, there are 5 nursing homes. And And that's definitely, those people have really been in need. So the donations that we're making to those and the people who run it has been, really helpful for the local community. So for us, it's making sure we stay in the community and we keep the community alive, because ultimately that is the lifeline of River Cottage. We're a business where we work with all these small producers. We don't buy stuff from very many national companies. So that's been the talk, and that's where we're spending our energy at the moment.
Yeah, you raised some really good points there. I think that the challenges to the food supply chain at the moment is very difficult, and we've heard of many small suppliers who are going out of business. And we're doing everything at Restaurant Associates and RA Venues to help those kind of suppliers by extra deliveries or promoting them in other areas. That probably leads me on to the next question perfectly. And what have you heard from your customers and suppliers during this time? Matt, I guess you have a wholesale business as well. What is the current talk in the town about the supply chain, and also with your own business? How is it working?
Well, I think people are optimistically looking forward to getting back to work. Nobody quite knows what that's going to look like, but they're very keen to get back and get started again. So we've seen some movement and from the wholesale side. Our customers have been very supportive. They've been looking to buy coffee from us and support us by pre-buying gift cards and generally helping out however they can. They understand that as a cafe with no customers, it's dire, like any business. So again, I guess it comes down to everyone wants to get out and wants to get started, but they want to do it safely. And it's quite hard to see who's making the decisions of what's safe and what's appropriate at the moment. So everyone's just in that sort of moment where want to do something but not quite sure what's appropriate at this given time.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Obviously health and safety is super important now going forwards. It's going to go to the top of the agenda. Before, I felt sustainability was probably one of the most important factors that as a hospitality industry we really needed to tackle. Going back to you, Stuart, continuing with the sort of discussion about your suppliers, how is it working with the businesses? Are they really struggling, or many of them going out of business, or are people like you able to assist them at these times of need?
I think some of them are really, really struggling, but the small suppliers that we're working with, we're trying to help them and trying to encourage other people to do the same. I mean, we're friends with quite a few other businesses around here, so I don't know, you've probably all heard that Mark Hicks's business went into administration a few weeks ago, so all his restaurants closed. And I think it's a shame because, of course, he works with the same suppliers we do, not only here, but also in London. Hay Farm, they sort of work with Petersham Nurseries in London, so they've obviously lost a massive amount of their business in that direction. And what I'm finding is that the owners of all these businesses are effectively saying they're working 5 times more hours than they normally used to working for a lot less money at the end of the day. So it's a really tricky time, but I'm hoping that next week we will have some direction on when we can start to reopen, because in our world, we've started putting these plans in place, but the thing is, we just have no idea about the timing. And I see what Gillian mentioned offline earlier from her connections to Hospitality UK. I imagine there will be a staging of the opening, and the furlough scheme will be tiered down. So that will allow us to bring some people back into the business, but retain people on the furlough and not basically make people redundant at the end of the day. So I think, working with suppliers at the moment is the most important thing for us. Our staff are effectively protected at the moment, the ones who are all furloughed, but the suppliers, they have no support network at this point. So if they're still running a business, they need to make a living, and we need to keep them alive if we can, because ultimately, as I said, they're the backbone of our business. And without them, we won't have the same. We can't really order from the massive sort of central the likes of Breaks and people like that, because we can't get the produce that we need.
No, there's some really good points there. And that sort of leads into the next question about health and safety, and is waiting for the announcement on Sunday from the government regarding social distancing and when the hospitality can be reopened. Gillian, can I ask you, can the hospitality industry operate with social distancing? I'm thinking particularly of your bars at the moment.
Thanks, Gavin. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we were chatting ahead of coming on the call, really, in that we've done kind of all sorts of different modelling, and I was saying earlier, we've been on a number of different calls with Hong Kong operators and different people over the last couple of weeks, understanding what their planning is and what they're doing. And our business is predominantly a bar business. 70% of our sales are bar sales. So what we really need, and I was talking to some colleagues in other businesses as well that have bar businesses, we need really clear guidelines to help us, because it doesn't work in terms of reopening things at 30–40% capacity. I mean, we've done all the work on the break-even matters, and we've also had a look at some of the businesses in the Netherlands and a couple of other countries as well that have done some planning and social distancing. But I think it's going to be difficult, but I think it can be thought through effectively. And for us, I mean, we're fortunate, some of our sites are quite large, so we've measured up, done all the planning around that. But the natural thing of British people is they want to socialise and they want to stand near one another and they want to connect. So we've really got to think it through, actually. So we don't have any answer yet, but I think we're going to be figuring it out over the next kind of 8 weeks, really, because I think having read the Ireland roadmap on pubs reopening on the 8th, there's quite a lot of work to do effectively over the next kind of 7–8 weeks to get us to be able to open again effectively and trade. So don't have any magic bullet or any kind of magic answer to it. I just think it's going to be a bit complicated, actually.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And then Matt, you're coming at it from a slightly different perspective because you've already started to open some of your cafes. Perhaps you can explain how you're going to operate with social distance going forwards.
Yeah, well, we've opened for takeaway and collection. So we've got coffee machines stuck up against the doors as a sure sign. You're not coming in, but you can get a coffee if you're on your daily exercise. And I think what Gillian said was right. We need clear guidance because we want to be doing the right thing. We want to be open. Our customers were walking past and knocking on the doors while we were there. We were roasting coffee with the coffee shop closed. And it would be very easy just to open up and let people in. But we want to do that, and we want to be able to give our customers confidence that we're doing the right thing. So us having a regime or protocols in place is one thing, but knowing that these have been approved or that they're either an industry guideline or a government guideline would be much easier for us to adhere to, but also then explain that and convey that message to our customers to give them the confidence to come back.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. As we're talking to you, Matt, I've had a question from Steve who asked, do you think keep cups will be left in the cupboard for now and a move to disposables until a vaccine is found will be the way forwards? What's your take on sustainability nowadays?
Well, you know, we were champions of sustainability. We sort of built the business around that. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about keep cups in particular, or different reusables. And I think that they're still going to have their place. I don't think, you know, just before we went into this, we were moving completely away from compostables into reusables. And I think even, you know, crockery from coffee shops, or in Gillian's case, and Stuart's, you know, glasses in restaurants and bars, how people will feel confident to use them will be the thing, which is going back to the government guidelines or advice or industry standards to make sure people are confident that what we're doing is effective. I think with keep cups, I do think people will still use them, because if you're using your own cup of coffee, you know, you're going out for your daily walks, people are working from home. So if I was keep cup, I wouldn't think it was necessarily the end of the world right now. There'll still be a use. I think compostables as disposables will be the one that'll really pick up again. And actually, in the wholesale side of our business, I can see us having a shared use again, because bean to cup coffee machines may play a bigger part in reducing queues at coffee shops or cafes inside offices. And we'll probably see us having to split the way people take their coffee. So they may get 2 or 3 functional coffees a day. They may use their own keep cup from an automated machine. That would be entirely appropriate. And that one luxury purchase that they might take, if they're given a chit or access to the coffee bar, and I'm not sure how that would work, but if they're given a timed slot, if it's on a lottery basis, or however they manage to get down there, I think then they'll get a disposable from the coffee bar. So I suppose both are still fair game. We'll be seeing both of them, but yeah, I think compostables and efficient compostables will be coming back up. We may have to look at more systems again in processing them, because as the decline of the compostables happened, so did the recycling plants or the composting machines, the industrial compost machines. I think they're going to be back in the picture again now as well. So it's almost like we've rewound by about a year to where we were and what we thought was appropriate, because about a year ago compostables were fantastic, and then we quickly made the move away into reusables. So interesting times ahead, but I think they've both got their place actually.
It's a moving feast, isn't it? What's right today will probably be changed tomorrow.
Yeah.
Question, Stuart, is for you, and you've already talked about how you've adapted to the challenges of the COVID-19 crisis by opening up the sub club and other aspects of your business. Are you looking at new ways of serving your customer base? There's been a lot of noise about takeaway and delivery playing a greater part in hospitality, either during or after the lockdown. Do you see this as being the future, and are you looking at different models for River Cottage?
Well, because our business is so diverse, we're definitely looking at different models. So if I take River Cottage HQ to start with, it's essentially a cookery school where we train people, or hobbyists come for fun to come on a cookery course. We have 20 stations in our cookery school. There's no way we're going to be able to run those with the same model going forward, so we're going to have to restructure how they're delivered. Our dining events on Friday evenings are obviously a very big part of River Cottage. We tend to feast where we share everything, so sharing plates, long style barn tables where the food's passed down the table and shared with everyone. So the whole model for our HQ is going to have to change. There's no way I can see us delivering 70 people on a long table where the food's passed between one person to another, obviously, and they're all next to one another. So, we have real challenges in those areas. But what's positive about the HQ is that we have so much space. So if we have weather like we have at the moment, or we've had recently, then outdoor eating is in the abundance. We have 100 acres. We have lots of areas where one could eat outside. You could have specific areas all over the farm where you could have groups who come together, or families, they could dine together. We can have plenty space between people sitting outside. There's plenty of opportunities there. So in this scenario, I think it's quite plausible. With the restaurants, I think we have the same, problems that Gillian and Matt are going to have. We have restaurants where, so our average cover is anything from 110 to 140 covers. They're pretty tight spaces, even though they're quite large. There's a lot of people. The whole point of them is that they're buzzy, they're close to one another, and that model's going to have to change completely. We're limited with outside space in all of our restaurants, so again, we have a difficulty in how to feed people. And the challenge we're going to have then is, can we actually start to make takeaway food that people can start to collect, or we can start to set up a delivery system? I mean, we had a connection with Deliveroo in Bristol late last year, so that sort of thing could be, I imagine those businesses will be thriving, to be honest. So there must be opportunities in those fields, but really it's about changing the model. But we really need the guidelines. At the end of the day, the bathrooms are a challenge I can see in some of our restaurants. They're very small corridors in old buildings where one has to all go to the bathroom. You go in the same space. Trying to get 140 people into those spaces is going to be difficult and tight. So yeah, so with the farm and HQ, I can see the model changing fairly easily. With the restaurants, it's a more challenging experience.
Fantastic. Gillian, can I ask you the same question? Are you looking at ways to reinvent your bar model, or your restaurants even?
Well, I think we've had a bit of a look at takeaway and delivery and such like. However, we've basically took the decision to hibernate all the businesses, and we closed on the 18th of March actually. And I think that I live in Bermondsey. We were just chatting before the call as well. And what I've noticed, apart from kind of less people in London, trails and trails of Deliveroo drivers outside kind of takeaways and to-go concepts. And a couple of things. I was listening to the guys from Dishoom talking about they weren't really keen on doing delivery because they feel it's a kind of B- of their product. And there's a couple of things I've got concerns about delivery for us as a business. Predominantly we're a bar business, so actually what would you deliver? Pre-mixed cocktails or something like that. But also I'm a bit concerned about delivery as well, in terms of the state of some of the cyclists and drivers, in terms of not just from health and safety and hygiene and such like as well. So yeah, we might look at it to test it in 1 or 2 sites. But actually, our business model is reliant upon customers coming to us. I think I said before the call, the most problem that we had before we closed was getting customers to leave at times, because we're in the business of fun. Not getting customers to come to bars, but getting them to leave bars in a well-behaved manner. So is delivery for us? Perhaps not, actually. It's actually really thinking through what we do in getting people back safely to our bars and restaurants. And you know, what are bars and restaurants about? They're about conviviality, and as Stuart said, it's about connection and closeness as well. So we've got to think all of that through, actually.
Yeah, no, they're very good points. Now I've got a couple of questions from the audience. One from Implausible Blog. How do you think influencers and social media will play a role in helping the hospitality industry gain more customers once the lockdown is lifted? I'm going to start by asking Matt, because I know you're an avid social media fan. What is your take on that?
Well, I think that's how we're going to be connecting with our customers now. So we have to jump on board and do what we can. I'm not sure in what way it would influence any future interactions, but I see it as a massive advertising tool to let people know we're still there, we're still open, and probably actually it's got a lot to do for us with collections or deliveries. And we have taken up Deliveroo and Uber Eats and companies like that, and hopefully that will go some way to fill the gaps that have appeared in the business. But yeah, we use social media now for shop sales and coffee sales and online sales, so that really is our shop window, and we do support it, and we hope that we can go along and keep improving our position and social media, get more followers, and get more positive interaction with our clients and customers.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. I think social media has been a fantastic vehicle for us to connect with not only our consumers, but also our fellow colleagues and people who we can't have contact with on a daily basis. So we've been using social media to really engage with the workplace, our clients, and also the wider community to make sure they understand, you know, that things are still taking place behind the scenes. That the restaurants may be closed, the cafes may be closed, but we're still very much hard at work behind them, making sure we can reactivate in the most best possible way. We've got another question here from Daniel. Now this sort of follows on from Jason Atherton's comments last week in our last webcast. And he says, have you all been able to work with your landlords, or have there been challenges with payment deferrals? I'm going to go over to Gillian, as I think you have the largest estate. How are your conversations with landlords going at the moment? Well,
since I started the business, we've paid our rent on time, pretty much for 48 quarters from our first businesses. We've got 18 landlords across the 23 properties, and actually people have been relatively understanding, but I think there's legislation hopefully coming in the next couple of weeks. Actually, I think UK Hospitality's done a brilliant job in terms of lobbying, and Jonathan Downey in our sector has been helping as well pull people together across the sector. But I think yeah, it's difficult because you know, we need a moratorium probably right the way through till September for the next couple of quarters as well. And let's see. And I think the other thing is we've got to be understanding of landlords. They've got shareholders and investors in different elements as well. So they've got portfolios to manage, the same as we've all got businesses to run, and they've got responsibilities as well. So I hope that we'll get, again, some help and support with the government. I mean, the government have been fantastic already, because I think actually the rates moratorium and various things, and actually some of the easing and furlough, my God, thank God for that. I mean, that was just incredible, really, in terms of, I think I cried when that was announced, because I was just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Because we'd closed on the 18th ahead of the government advice. So I think there's probably tough days to come and tougher conversations to come over the next few weeks, actually, because hopefully we get the advice in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We get some guidelines around that. June's quarter rent is due, and we're in negotiation. We've confirmed 3 offers that we've had with our landlords, but we've got 15 to go effectively. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a moving feast, but I think, to be fair, I mean, we're really fortunate because, and it's lovely to be part of this today, because most of the buildings that you guys operate in, actually we're on the base of some of those properties actually. So it's Compass customers that are in those buildings that are coming to us. So I think landlords thus far have been quite reasonable. I know you read different horror stories about things, but I think they've been quite reasonable thus far.
That's really positive to hear. The question from the audience, Sonia's wrote in. I'm going to ask you, Stuart, this one. Do you think consumer appetites will change with so many changes to the way we live now?
Do you mean as in consumer attitudes changing due to COVID-19 and going forward?
Yeah, I think what Sonia's trying to communicate is, will menu changes, will we as individuals respond to this crisis, maybe looking for more health and well-being offers, or will we go back to our indulgent treats in a response to, you know, the anxiety that this pandemic has created?
Well, I hope the former, and like Matt says, you know, we're focused highly on sustainability, and you know, we've taken all takeaway cups, etc., out of all of our establishments. So I'm hoping that, you know, sustainability, healthy living, and positive sort of food is going to be the way forward. The problem is that people are going to feel like they want comfort, and sometimes that indulgence does come from comfort. So to be honest, I'm not quite sure at this stage. I think it's difficult to understand. I think people will have missed a lot of their comforts. You know, at the end of the day, sometimes there's something amazing about going out and having an indulgent meal in a restaurant and something really lovely to drink, and that may be missing from many people's lives in the past sort of couple of months. So one might find that people will want to do that. But on the other hand, you know, the health and well-being of our people has to be paramount at the end of the day. If you think about how many people have become sick from COVID-19, and it's really important that we take care of ourselves. And I think healthy food and healthy living's got to be the way forward, but it's difficult to tell at this stage. I mean, it also depends how long we have to stay. You know, we are going to be allowed to open, but that doesn't mean the doors open and everyone can go back to normal. It's going to be a long haul where we're going to be in a different state of being for some time now. I can't see anything really being free for all for a long time, especially until we have some sort of vaccination in place.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think things are going to move at a slow pace for the next few months. Continue with that line of thought. Matt, can I ask you this next question? What long-term impacts will coronavirus have on the high street? Will we ever go back to normal post-vaccine, or will the sector be radically changed forever, in your opinion?
That's a big one.
Question.
You know, I'm always err on the side of optimism, and I really hope that we can get back to some sense of normality, whatever that time frame to get there is. That one I just don't know. I think some of the things that are going to happen, and actually going back to Stuart's point there, I hope that people will keep on thinking about the environment and thinking about health and healthy choices. And I hope this really galvanizes people to think that actually, you know, we've got to be a little bit more sustainable. We've got to be healthier. And so some of the things we were doing before COVID-19, I hope that actually gets more momentum as we come out of it. Some of the things we've done, we've changed delivery systems. We sponsored a bike team, One Life Cycles, and most of the guys riding the bikes who have been doing, you know, cycle courier jobs and things like that. So they're massively affected. But there was an opportunity there. So we've turned that around, and from sponsoring a cycle racing team, we've now got a team of cycle delivery guys or girls and people that are able to do, you know, carbon-free deliveries, really healthy, supporting local, you know, stay local, buy local. All of the right messages seem to be the right answers at the moment, and I'm really hoping that if anything positive, and you know, I hope that a lot of positive things will come from this, that just the slowdown that everyone's had, time to reflect on how fast we were going, the fast pace of life, that we'll all be able to now make decisions based on sustainability and based on health, not just a rat race or trying to get ahead quickly. And I hope that that's the way we all come out of this.
Hear, hear.
Perhaps Gillian, can I pick up the same question with you? Do you think we'll ever go back to normal post-vaccine?
I was talking to my mum about this. I'm a Highlander from Oban, and I was saying to my mum, London feels like Scotland in the 70s where I was growing up, and that people have kind of gone, they've become quite polite again. And we were chatting with Stuart earlier, saying hello to one another. And I think what I think exactly through this point of reflection is actually people had this kind of 24-hour mentality. They must have everything straight away. And actually what I've noticed in the last few weeks is a renewed humility in people. And I think that's quite a beautiful thing. I think seen a humility, seen a collaboration. I mean, it's just been so inspiring to see all the different types of people across all different kind of walks of life that have been collaborating as well. And actually, I think that as well as people being healthy and looking after themselves, I think it's kind of endemic in British culture sometimes at times to look at the negative, and people kind of talk about all the things that are wrong. But actually, you know, I think we've got, you know, fantastic supply chain available to us in the UK, beautiful products and such like. And I think I would say to our guys in the business over the last few weeks, we've got to remember we're in the business of fun as well as being nice bars and restaurants. And actually people will need that whole antidote as we come out of all of this actually. So yeah, do I think our customer survey was funny in that the things that customers were missing the most, Stuart, I was listening when I was agreeing with you when you were talking about the nostalgia thing and comfort. So one of the highest things in our customer survey was funny. There's 1,000 people, I think, on the first survey. They were all missing nibbles, bubbles, cocktails, sitting together on terraces and having rosé. And also lots of people wanting fish. It looks like lots of people don't like to cook fish at home and want healthier options. So, but also then wanting chips, which is quite funny as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be a new normal. It's going to be different. And I think we've got to go with that. And actually, the other thing that I think is brilliant is there's been quite a lot of creativity happening as well. A lot of new businesses starting. And some of our teams have had really good ideas as well about new things we'd like to trial as well. And I'm really excited to do those things as well as the social distancing piece to trial new things. Wonderful to hear about your supper club as well, Stuart. I mean, beautiful ideas around that. So I think there's going to be a lot of new creative and fun things happening. I think crisis always brings amazing opportunity.
I agree completely. I just want to say what I'm missing the most are bubbles and a good flat white. I haven't had flat white for months because I'm not capable of making my own.
How are your barista skills, Stuart?
Well, David Sims taught me how to use the machine in your head office, so I can make myself an espresso, but getting the flat white right's just, I'm hopeless.
Well, actually, that's music to my ears, Stuart, because when we get out of lockdown, come on in, we'll make you a fantastic one.
I've been in a few times, definitely will.
Fantastic. Okay, we've not got much time left, so just maybe one or two questions. The first one is, what should we be doing collectively to support the hospitality industry at this time? And Stuart, can I ask you, because obviously you've been doing a lot of work in the community, and what about the bigger industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is really interesting how people are really working together. You know, if you think that people can be regularly selfish, and actually, I think Gillian mentioned it earlier that people are saying hello, and you know, generally that's a very positive thing. So I think that sort of side of thing of working with other businesses in the industry is really important. I think this stage, it's great if we can all group together and really help each other. I mean, for example, you know, I'm working with your team, Gavin, and Alice and David, putting together a Ways to Be Well program, and we're really working on that at the moment, full tilt. So I think it's really it's important that we do remember that other people in our industry may need help, and we might need help, and it's great that we can all sort of help one another in the industry.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And then one of my last questions then, does the panel feel that there will be a dramatic change in customer demographics, given that the lockdown and the fact that families have been together for a long period and perhaps reconnected more than ever before? Do we feel that the audiences coming to our restaurants and cafes will change going forwards? And that's from Steve.
Well,
I'm going to ask, who shall I start?
I'll jump in since there was a gap there. So it could go two ways. You know, the kids might, or teenagers might not want to see the parents for a while, and the parents vice versa. But actually, sensibly, I think that in the short term anyway, it will be like that, because from what I understand, we should be opening up, or perhaps we will be opening up in sort of a bubble. And the experience in New Zealand, as they were releasing their lockdowns, they were allowing one household to connect to another household and so on. And I think that would be a beautiful thing if, you know, after all of this time of isolation, you were able to get with your friends and family or neighbours and have that combined group, and then go out and experience a dinner, a drink and some fun together. So yes, I think that we'll see smaller groups of people, which will probably be family groups or close friends to start with, which will be lovely actually to see that.
I agree. And perhaps Gillian, do you have any thoughts about the different changing demographics coming to your bars and restaurants?
I think there'll be quite a lot of reunion gathering and people wanting to look and feel their best actually. So I've been listening to a couple of webinars from Hong Kong in terms of as the bars and restaurants and retail was reopening there. So agree with Matt. Look, people just want to connect. We're social beings. People will want to get together, have a great time, and actually have some fun. Actually, and I think there's also going to be quite a lot of pent up energy of people wanting to get together and just have great fun, listen to nice music, drink nice wine and cocktails, and eat some lovely food as well, and enjoy, hopefully, if we can, get open by the end of the summer. If not, enjoy the autumn weather, really.
Perfect. Well, that's for the questions for today. Thank you very much to everybody who wrote in with their questions, and sorry I can't answer all of them. And even bigger thanks to the panel. Thank you for Gillian, Stuart and Matt for a real thought-provoking conversation about the future of the high streets. Our next Future of Hospitality discussion will be on Monday at 3:30, when Restaurant Associates Director Sean Fitzgibbons will be talking to the MDs of Extract Coffee, Redemption Roasters, Hey, I wonder who they are, and our Head of Coffee, Sonia Cavallo, about the future of cafes in the UK. For more information about the programme, please go to our website, which is www.ragroup.co.uk/news. For now, though, thank you very much for joining us today, and goodbye.